The majority of children and adults. Hello everyone, I'm Gianluca and I have the Erlen syndrome. I tried a reading test many times and I was failing. Then I tried this test with my glasses. And guess what? I'll tell you at the end of the video.
Please, no! No! No!
Today, I want to talk with you about this specific syndrome, and who better than Nerida Crow can explain to us what Erlen syndrome is. Hello!
Hello, Gianluca.
How are you today?
Very good, thank you.
Would you mind to tell us what is the Erlen syndrome?
Erlen syndrome is a light sensitivity problem triggered by fluorescent light, sunlight, bright light. Some people with Erlen syndrome have problems with headlights and street lights. And Erlen syndrome is a visual processing issue, so it's a brain-based difficulty, and it's associated with how our brain interprets what our eyes see. So to be an effective reader, we need good eyesight, good vision, and we need good visual processing, what our brain does with the information that the eyes see. And the treatment is ultimately to have Erlen lenses prescribed.
And would you like to tell us more about all of the symptoms?
There are numerous signs and symptoms of Erlen syndrome. It can affect a person's ability to read fluently. They have problems keeping their position when they read. They might lose their place or skip words and lines, repeat lines. Sometimes they have difficulty recognising words. They also, in losing their position, they need to reread to understand. And when they're reading, because they've got to concentrate so much harder, it can result in eye strain, migraine, headaches, fatigue. Some people experience frustration when they read, anxiety, low self-esteem. So it affects people in different ways. Now, some people with Erlen syndrome, when they look at black text on a white background, the white background actually dominates the text. And it can be bright, it may be glary or uncomfortable to look at. For some people, it's a little bit like they have a torch in their eye. And then what can also occur are distortions with print. Print may blur, shake, fade, double, lift up off the page, merge with one another. So ultimately, if a person with Erlen syndrome has problems with the print distorting, it makes reading very complicated.
Just to give you my personal example, this is how it looks like when I'm reading without my glasses. And this is how it looks like when I'm reading with my glasses. And how is the Erlen syndrome diagnosis, and who can diagnose the Erlen syndrome?
The initial assessment for Erlen syndrome can be completed by an Erlen clinician or an Erlen screener. In that initial assessment, they will complete a test called the Erlen Reading Perceptual Scale, which will highlight whether there are any distortions or distractions that they're experiencing on a printed page or screen, or also within the environment. And then they're introduced to a series of clear coloured overlays that are placed on top of the text to see if a particular colour clarifies the text.
If you're wondering how the layers looks like, yeah, we have some layer.
And these are placed on top of the text to see if any of these make it easier to see, softens the brightness, brings out the text, and makes it more comfortable to look at. So the initial assessment, which takes approximately an hour, will determine if Erlen syndrome is present. If it is present to a moderate or severe degree, the second assessment will be recommended, and the second assessment is the coloured lens assessment. That's where we're looking through the coloured lens kit.
And if you're wondering how the lenses look like, here we have the lenses.
Now with the lenses, some people have a single colour that they require to assist with their visual processing needs. Others require a combination of colours. Some people may have 2 or 3 colours combined in totally different colours. It really depends. And ultimately the aim with the Erlen lenses is to eliminate as many distortions and distractions that a person is experiencing when they're looking at black print on a white background, and also to reduce distortions and distractions within the environment.
And how do you think this syndrome impacts the daily life of people?
It affects people in many different ways. If it's a student in the learning environment, they can fall behind in their studies. They can develop low self-esteem because they see that their peers seem to be progressing in ways that they're not progressing. They may need additional time in exams, and some of them will have problems concentrating in class or while studying or in the office. They can fatigue more easily, because a person with Irlen syndrome, when they're looking at black text on a white background, their brain physically has to work so much harder to manage the brightness in the background and distortion with print if that is occurring for them. And ultimately, what the lenses do is they tone down the brightness and bring out the text and clarify the text, so it makes it more comfortable to look at. But if they have these distortions and distractions, it will result in headaches and or migraines, and often fatigue. Sometimes people with Irlen syndrome can be clumsy. They have difficulty judging depth perception and distance, so they can misjudge where things are. Now, for people with depth perception difficulties, the Irlen lenses can actually provide the element of depth and give objects a full solid shape in space. Not every person with Irlen syndrome has problems with depth perception, but for those who do, these lenses can be quite life-changing for them.
What does the lens actually do?
Okay, ultimately what it does is it filters the problem a person has within white light. It doesn't actually colour their world. Even though their lenses look coloured, it doesn't mean that their world is that colour. Their world needs to look natural. But the intention with the lenses is for someone who has problems when they're reading, is to tone down the brightness of the background, bring out the text, so the text is the focus and not the background, clarify the text, stabilise the print, and it allows them to see more words at one look. And when you can see more words at one look, you can actually track better along the lines and keep your position, because you can see more words at one time that you can connect with. The Irlen lenses also allow the brain and the eyes to relax when they're looking at black text on a white background, and it makes the reading process so much easier because their energy isn't going into trying to manage dealing with the challenges of the brightness in the background and the print distorting. So not all Irlen people have all the signs and symptoms. Obviously, the more severe they are, the more symptoms they will have. But it ultimately is to calm their eyes and brain down whenever they're in light.
Let's talk about kids for a second. Like, if I have a child who has this kind of issue, what kind of support they can get at school?
Some people with their Irlen tint find that they do have a preference for a different paper colour, so that if they're in primary school or high school, they can ask to have all of their schoolwork that's on paper-based tasks printed on a particular colour that is more comfortable for them. In exams, they can ask for extra time in exams, rest breaks if need be, reduce lighting, and to use a water bottle because their brains dehydrate more often. Particularly at a TAFE and tertiary level, they're very supportive of students with Irlen syndrome, and those additional supports will be provided.
As an occupational therapist, I did research about different strategies that they can also use to improve their learning skills, such as an e-reader with adjustable settings, a speech-to-text or a text-to-speech software, audiobooks, and or watching videos, such as YouTube videos like this one. And then there are also different strategies that we already mentioned, such as adaptive lighting, using different filters, and also there are different apps that can assist you with your daily living issues. Often this syndrome is confused with other syndromes, such as the dyslexia. What are the differences between them?
Dyslexia is a brain-based issue associated with how the brain interprets the information that comes in through the ears and the eyes, but it's not to do with vision or hearing. Irlen syndrome is a visual processing difficulty caused by light, and it affects people with dyslexia and without dyslexia. So Irlen syndrome and dyslexia are two very different things. But it is quite common for dyslexics to have issues with light sensitivity.
So am I wrong in saying that maybe Irlen syndrome could be a symptom of the dyslexia, however, it could be just something by itself?
Absolutely. Yes. And it's the same with ADHD. Some people have ADHD and they actually have Irlen syndrome. because when they're reading, it's so hard for them to concentrate and focus when white backgrounds are distracting and uncomfortable to look at, and text may be distorting. So it's easier for them to not concentrate or be easily distracted or distract others. And so there's a percentage of those diagnosed with ADD and ADHD that actually do have Irlen syndrome. And some people have had that diagnosis taken away once they've had Irlen lenses prescribed, because they've discovered that it's actually a light sensitivity problem they have that's affecting their ability to concentrate.
So if you're wondering if you have dyslexia or not, maybe it might be worthwhile to try a test for the Irlen syndrome first and then check if you also have dyslexia.
People with sensory processing difficulties and those with autism spectrum disorder are prone to having symptoms of Irlen syndrome. So it is also worth them having an assessment, an initial assessment, to determine whether or not this is something that's impeding their ability to focus and concentrate and read effectively.
Okay everyone, if you watch until now, you are still wondering if I passed the test or not after I got my glasses. And guess what? Yes! Finally, after multiple times, just by using those glasses, it looked like a different world and I was understanding everything. And then, yes, finally, I got this test done. Thank you. Now guys, I've done the test for the Irlen syndrome and I'm positive. However, I still don't know if I have dyslexia or not. So, if you have a dyslexia center in Sidri and you want to do me a test, we can record a video together, talk about the dyslexia, and then we will let people know if I'm also dyslexic or not. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If so, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and super important to be kind and smile. Thank you so much, and now we have to say arrivederci together.
Okay.
Thank you so much and arrivederci.
Hey.
Thank you.
Thank
That's
you.
good.